justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Covert,
Here.
Crowner,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Lees,
Here.
Young.
Here.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We have a consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve is presented.
I'd like to pull two and just ask a question about that. Is too late?
You probably should have done that during our approval of the agenda.
No, this is the
Put it in your
consent.
motion.
What?
Amend the motion if you want.
Oh,
Oh, I never had a second.
no, it hasn't had a second. so-
Okay.
Someone
I'd like to,
waited until after it was seconded and then pulled it, but that's okay.
oh,
That's all
should have
right.
waited till, oh, sorry.
Which items would you like to have pulled?
I just got a question on number 2 here.
Okay.
So, everything else I'm fine with.
I'll amend my
You
motion.
can ask the question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, Randy, can we do that ourselves? It's $6,000. Or Mike. I did this to him twice today, by the way. Mike.
Because of the licensing to be able to spray and treat around water lagoons and the chemicals they're using, we're not licensed to do that. That's why we don't do that anymore.
We used to do that, and
Used to, and in this quote, he no longer will do the wood chips because of liability of kids getting sick. So we have come up with a new plan. We're gonna try that natural mix of salt water, Dawn dish soap, and vinegar in the playground equipment area that won't harm kids. I've been out to the state, they have oodles of leftover saltwater brine mix that they put on the road, which is just salt and water, so I got that for free, so I'll just be buying a little vinegar and Dawn, and I'm gonna try and use that in those big wood chip areas in the playground equipment this way to keep weed control down. He will no
Okay.
longer do them either, because of it's just all liability because of chemicals and stuff.
okay, fair enough. I just didn't understand quite well, so, thank you.
I support the motion.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Start off with our reports. Greg?
I think most of my items will fall under the trail, number 8, unless somebody has some questions.
Okay. Mike, you want to go for Public Works?
We're still waiting on the pump for the east lift to come back that the seal went out of, and the impeller's bad. That lift station is the last big lift station we have that has never been rebuilt or redone. We've done the west and the south. This lift station is the same age as the old force main. And parts for these impellers, they're having a hard time finding that, so we're running on 2, which I do not like in this wet season, but don't have a choice. The same thing in the west. A check valve went out, sieged up, and it caused the water to push back through and blew a seal out of one of the pumps in the main west. So we're running on 2 pumps in the west right now too. That has been pulled and taken up. Seal for the pump's not a problem. They're trying to locate what they need to do to fix the check valve and get that back to me as soon as they can. So not a good time of year to have issues with those 2 main lift stations. Third thing is still struggling to get the okay to open the pool because of the main drain issue. Just heard back here at 5 o'clock from them. I got to make a phone call tomorrow. Apparently there's something else they need that didn't get passed forward through Burbach. Trying my best to push that through to get that taken care of. I don't know if you were all aware that the new umbrella structures came and had surface rust, were sent off. Told them that's unacceptable. So they were sandblasted, repowder coated. They're going to be delivered back to me on Friday, so we'll be able to start standing them structures back up. We don't have the tops for them yet, but we'll have all the poles. So as of Friday, we'll inspect them and see what they look like and see if I approve them. And if we keep them, then we'll start setting the structures up for them. 15, or the fifth one is Casey's store. We got some issues out there, like every project you run into with fuel tanks, and the location of that unstable force main we got going through there that we actually vacked and found last week down there after 2 days of digging and locating it. And it's close to two high-pressure gas lines, and Casey's moved their fuel tanks to make it easier for people coming into the new frontage road, but now that's not going to work. It's too close and dangerous. So the guy on site there is working with Casey's, and I'm probably going to be having a meeting come up with them to work with them on how or where we can move their underground fuel tanks to get them in for them. So we're working on that issue too. Good Friday wasn't such a good Friday. Got called in here. We had a diesel fuel tank on a semi at Menards, had a hole punched in it, and diesel fuel was running on the ground 10 foot from a storm intake, got into a storm intake. PD, fire department was on scene. They had hazmat here. I got there and they had called DNR. DNR was coming down from Washington. Came up here, Angie found some maps, and we checked where that went, and it goes to their lake, but it was, they had it confined in between two manholes, so it didn't get to the lake, and hazmat soaked that up, and DNR gave them the okay to flush that out when we got most of the diesel fuel, so we were working on that Friday morning in here, so. That's
Hey, Mike,
about,
did you use the new sewer truck or jet vac on that?
oh, no, I'm
That's
not
not
sucking diesel fuel up in there. no.
Okay,
No.
all right, cool, got it.
Nope, they got all their absorbing their noodles and rags, and they had a guy down in the manhole was soaking them up, and Jesse's, the fire department was helping the hazmat there, and everything went as planned and worked out good. I think everybody worked together over there and had it confined, and we got the mess cleaned up, so
Thank you.
that's all I got.
Thank you. Jesse, anything for police and fire?
Yeah, we got that K-9 fundraiser this Saturday up in Mediapolis. It's a side-by-side, any vehicle ride. Starts at it starts at 10 a.m. and they'll return back to Mediapolis at 5 p.m. And then there'll be a band up there at 7 p.m. and all proceeds will be split again between West Burlington, Des Moines County, and Louisa County K-9 group. So we really appreciate them including us. And this is the first one. It looks like the weather might actually turn by then. I just want to remind the citizens that spring cleanup's not till May 15th. I've seen some items placed out on the curb already. We don't want it out there until about a week before. I put May 10th, which is that Friday. We need that stuff taken off the curbs, or they could be removed and assessed back to the landowners if we have to come around and pick it up before the scheduled date. So we got over a month before the spring cleanup, so we need to get that stuff taken off the curbs around town. We got raffle tickets still for sale. Our drawing for the K-9 raffle ticket is on Friday at 3 p.m. So you can stop by City Hall and get one if you still would like to get a side-by-side, or excuse me, the raffle ticket. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Right.
Greg, anything from building?
No, he's enjoying a vacation. Well earned.
Thank you. Anything from our clerk?
Not tonight.
All right. Finance? No. IT?
Not tonight, thank you.
Council reports? Okay, Andy?
Next Monday, we'll start selling raffle tickets for the 4th of July raffle. So if your group's interested in selling tickets, you sell them for $2 each. Your group gets to keep $1 of that. We'll have some great prizes this year, so that'll go after the K-9 raffle. We'll start that next Monday. So that's coming up quick. And then I wanted to congratulate KPI Concepts for West Burlington Business of the Year there a couple weeks ago. Don't think we've had a council meeting since then. So appreciate them being here in our community and providing a lot of valuable jobs for us here, and continuing to expand, and recently bought another company and moved those jobs here as well. So congratulations to them. That's all. Thank you.
John?
I don't have.
You know what, I'm good.
Okay. Melanie?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to
Did you ask Gringo?
any citizen inquiries about the items on the agenda? If not, we'll go to new business. Our first item of new business is considering a resolution setting a public hearing date of April 24th on the proposed budget for fiscal 24-25.
Motion.
Moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Not. I need a roll call on this, Kelly.
Yes, it's a resolution, yeah.
All right.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 2 is considering a resolution setting a public hearing date of May 1st to amend the budget fiscal year.
Your Honor,
Yes,
we had a PowerPoint presentation,
on this,
On the budget.
On the
So
budget?
vote.
item number 1.
okay. All right,
I will run through the PowerPoint presentation. If it's not clear, I can have Angie take over. She's prepared to do that. But just as a reminder, there's no council action tonight. Council action will be on April 24th. This is an opportunity that we discussed to present the budget PowerPoint and provide people an opportunity in advance of that meeting on the 24th to have one more look at the budget as currently proposed. So I'll run through it quickly. It's long, but I'm not going to hit all that supplemental information. I think it's just good information to share with yourselves, the public, and staff. So proposed budget tackles a number of challenges, and as you know, we've been dealing with House File 718 this year, which has added a number of steps to our budget. We are able to maintain a strong general fund balance, and as you probably are using a portion of that for water projects, $200,000 this next year. Levy rate, as discussed and currently proposed, is at 1010. It generates another $17,698. Franchise fees, which you see on the agenda tonight, so that we can start that process, so that we can get that in place for the next fiscal year. It is currently proposed at 3%. We have that transfer of $200,000 from the general fund to the capital account for sanitary sewer or water main projects, and we specifically have it for that water main project we discussed as well. We have discussed the removal of the $1 capital project fee on monthly water bills, but I don't believe there's been a consensus on that, so that's certainly something we'll want to consider at the next council meeting as well. That generates just over $22,000 per year in the water fund. However, that said, as you're aware, we received late notice of a 5% increase in rates for from the city, from Burlington Waterworks. And rough estimate based on last year's cost, that will cost the city roughly $12,500 for your reference. Tax rate history on the next page. We've been historically done a great job of keeping things relatively steady with minimal increases or decreases over the years. So, general fund balance has gone from 25.38% down to 21.22%, which is roughly about because of that $200,000 decrease in the general fund. So we started at around 30%, ended up around 25, took that out, and now we're roughly at 21.22% in general fund balance for next year. I like to have typically about 25% personally, but there's a good one-time use of funds. The budget designates, again, that $200,000, so we do have a strong fund balance, and probably a fund balance policy should be considered in the future for discussion. Fund balance comparison, this again gives you an idea of where we are the past 3 years in the proposed budget, just to give you a sense of where we stand. Sewer, you'll see some asterisks by that, and that's because we have that internal loan, so it appears less than it actually is. Property valuations, we've talked quite a bit about this. We did see a decrease this year due to residential rollback, going from 54 and change down to 46% and change, a little over an 8% reduction in assessed valuation. Although we did see, or some folks did see increases in assessed valuation, and there was a statewide equalization order. This was a comparison that we had reviewed before, 100% in taxable valuations, just a simple comparison. The current levy is on the left, and the proposed levy is on the right. Last year's legislative session, there was no discussion that there would be a decrease in the general Fund 810 levy. As you see, based on the state's calculations, ours drops to $7.94. So that is made up down below in the employee benefits levy, so that we can reach the 1010 as proposed. Property tax revenue from fiscal 23-24 to 24-25 is noted below, and that's largely due to that equalization order and increase in assessed valuation, especially in commercial. Budget issues and challenges. Again, the backfill is still in play and goes down annually, so we do have to account for that. And, this year it dropped from 83 down to 69,000 and change. And by 2030 it will go away or sooner, depending on legislation. This just give you an idea of residential rollback numbers, year-to-year comparison for ag, commercial, industrial, railroad, and residential. You can see those changes. Budget issues and challenges. As you all know, CPI has been an issue for the past couple of years, so that communities are dealing with, residents are dealing with, everyone's dealing with. So it's a challenge that we have to account for as well as the rollback that I've mentioned before. And there's a little history from 22 to 25 for both residential and multi-res, showing that reduction in the rollback, significant reduction, which was about an 8.3% decrease. The multi-res property class was eliminated and is now taxed as residential. There's that big business property tax credit that started in 23-24, got the reduction in backfill, CPI, and of course we're balancing our needs for capital projects as well. But I think we've done a good job of putting that budget together. Capital equipment, with that 5-year outlook, the CIP has been completed. IT budget, as you recall, we've moved all of the computers other than the squad cars over there. Transfers were modified based on the capital equipment needs. We have a 4% cost of living based on our 2 contracts. We did utilize TIF administrative fees to support administrative staff and support the general fund, and as we've done for the past couple of years. We've also, as we've historically done, we've broken out city administrative clerk and finance staff and IT across funds, which is certainly appropriate as we work across each of those accounts. Health insurance has a 4% increase, property liability insurance a 10.5% increase, as we discussed. We're hoping work comp rates offset that. We have an excellent history and should see an excellent mod come July 1. So looking forward to getting that number, hopefully to offset some of these costs. Rate adjustments are noted here. Pool admission fees that were discussed early on. The new rate for ages 0 to 3. And then, of course, we added the new annual season pass at $150 per individual. Garbage rates have no change. Recycling rates have been adjusted to reflect the increase in cost. Water rate, there was no rate increase proposed. Sewer rates, that was approved last year, and go from 1191 to 1215 for city code as adopted last year. There has, and we did discuss Spear's recommendation to look at a minimum adjustment of 2% in water and sewer every other year for each account. However, as we noted earlier, we saw a 5% increase from the city of Burlington. I think this is an excellent page for folks to take a deep dive into. This does not account for increases in assessed values. That previous spreadsheet that I provided allows you to look at increases in assessed value at $25,000 increments. But from an apples to apples comparison for year to year on a $100,000 home and $200,000 home commercial at $120,000, you can see that residential has gone down each year in both categories, and we'll see a significant reduction this next year. As has commercial, from 900 down to 468, and 1800 down to 1156.59. Again, this does not account for any increase in assessed valuation or the equalization order that properties may have received. So we've got a balanced budget this year. We've got a number of capital projects included. Gay Avenue Phase Trail Phase 2, HMA Crackfield, water main replacement, and amendments can certainly address any successful grants that we receive. As you know, we're working on stormwater and sanitary sewer issues. Capital projects in the planning stages, we have stormwater, 24-inch force main, Mount Pleasant Street, water main annual replacement projects. Sewer mains is something we would discuss more. A lot of our sewers are clay tile, and maybe where we're seeing a portion of that I&I to our plant. We're maintaining existing levels of services. We're prepared for future challenges, but we never know what's going to happen during the legislative session, which concludes after the budget is completed. Major discussion items, as you know, we discussed a number of capital projects, the levy rate, water and sewer rates, and franchise fee. The following information is really supplemental. It's historical, provides good comparison information, and really, I'm going to speed through these. Stop me if you're interested, but we provide this really more for your information. It's good data to have, and good historical data. This shows our water rates, following page, our sewer rates, and again here we've got franchise fee estimated based on 22 calendar year usage that were included. And we discussed that that first 1% is excuse me, that local option sales tax nullifies essentially that first 1% on a franchise fee. So if you have a 3% franchise fee, you're essentially receiving 2% additional in revenue. This is that estimate that we provided the Alliant Energy. You can see 1 through 5% and what that revenue generates. We noted a number of these additional projects already. Our comparison in tax rates based on the 23-24 rate, you'll see that I think we come out very favorably for our community as compared to other cities in the state of Iowa, which is a good thing. The levy rate comparison with other cities in the Warren County area, Burlington's rate, Danville, Minneapolis, Middletown, and West Burlington. Our 100% valuation history is included for your reference as well, so you see that trend. Again, we like to show the taxable valuations in that trend as well, so that you have that information. And then, based on major classes, we'd like to provide taxable valuations and how that has changed year over year. Rollback comparison, historical information for yourselves as well. You'll see since 16-17 we haven't had it. We've been in the 54 to 56% range with that 46% drop in 25 fiscal year. Quite a significant difference over the last 10 years. Tax rate history, for your reference, going forward, and if you recall in 22-23, we discussed the bond issuance to pay for Mount Pleasant Street, and went back up to the $10 rate that we've had historically for a number of years. Just another comparison for residential house with assessed values of 100,000 and historical data as well over the past 10 years or so. Same thing for commercial property, just as a reference point, so you can see how that's changed year over year. Property tax history, again, just a reference for a 10-year period so that you can see the countywide levy, West Burlington, Des Moines County, Community College, etc. Just a different graph showing our levy rates. General fund, 24-25 general fund revenues are budgeted at just over $3.6 million, expenses of $3,500,000, expenditures exceeding revenues by $240,000. The general fund is estimated to have a balance of $754,350.49, resulting in a 21.22% fund balance, down from 30% at the start of the budget process. General fund increase in expenditures and revenues. Again, just historical data for your reference. Our enterprise funds, tax increment financing, it shows you what the outstanding issues are that we have in TIF debt. Road use tax history is included here as well. We budgeted to receive $460,000 in road use taxes for the coming year. And this shows, again, historical data where we've ranged for the past several years. As with local option sales tax revenues, 10-year or so history, you'll see a steady, it's been relatively steady over the past several years. Slight decrease this coming year projected. Local option sales tax expenditures, this is where your funds are going, making to ensure that we meet local option sales tax requirements. And then the next are just graphs, different representations of what we've been discussing: revenues by source, tax revenue breakdown, expenditures by function, hotel motel tax rates, revenue estimates for the coming year at $80,000, budgeted $103,551% of that revenue is allocated to the city, 49% of that revenue is allocated to the CBD, just as a reminder. Hotel motel tax rate history. Capital projects and equipment that we have included in the budget. A simple list so that you have that comparison, project, the amount, and funding sources. our transfers, make it a little bit easier. You'll see the transfers that are taking place year over year from 23, 24 to 24, 25. This page shows our outstanding debt, GO bond, SRFs, and the purpose, amount of the issue, and principal, interest, fees, and total payments. And I'm happy to answer more questions on those detailed ones. I think it's just a good history to provide, good information to have. But I would like to thank the Mayor and Council. We had a number of extra meetings this year. I appreciate everyone's hard work, the work that staff put in ahead of time, and Angie for her numerous hours of input and changes to the budget this year as well. But I think we've got a good budget. And if people, public have questions, this information is on the agenda packet and should be posted on the website. If not, it will be tomorrow. And I'm happy to answer questions on the presentation from Mayor and Council or staff, the public, and they're more than welcome to call, stop in, and shoot me an email.
Questions or comments?
Are there any questions?
I'm good. That's good. Good job, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we need to go to item number 2. Consider resolution setting a public hearing date of May 1st to amend the budget for fiscal year 2023-2024.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
May
Seeing
1st.
none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I'll need a voice.
Oh, sorry. Resolution.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3, consider resolution approving and adopting a franchise purpose statement for the use of revenues from electric and natural gas franchise fees.
Support. So,
Motion, support?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes.
Whatever it was.
We'll work it.
Discussion on this? We've had quite a bit.
Your Honor, the reason these items are on here tonight is that so the process can run concurrent with the budget approval process. It will be completed subsequent to the budget approval process. So if something changes on the 24th, the council goes a different direction, we can, of course, pull this item. But if we want to try to get this revenue in place for the fiscal year, we need to get the process started so we can provide proper notice to Alliant to begin the process. But again, that will be completed after the budget process. So if something changes, we can simply pull this from the agenda. And I do need, on that resolution, clarification as to council's preference in regards to the revenue purpose statement. Either A or B, which one we will be utilizing. Not much difference. B calls out the force main specifically. A is, excuse me, not A and B, but I guess I already changed it. The one that's been in the packet calls out the west lift station specifically. If that's not the one that the council wishes to do, then it would simply state sanitary sewer and water mains rather than specifically calling out the force main. But essentially they do the same thing. This one just calls out a specific project and the intent to use franchise fees for that project.
Preference from the council?
I think that's what we discussed. We wanted a more specific statement, and this to me reflects that.
Treese?
I agree.
Agree? Okay. John?
I want one that's, we're gonna dedicate the money, if we do it, to force mains.
That's
That's this one
On there,
here.
John.
what it
I-
says.
Okay.
I mean, that's the one I want.
Okay. Andy? Okay.
I'm good as it is.
All right. Okay. Sounds like this one's good, so I will call for a roll call vote.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
No.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4. Consider the first reading of an ordinance repealing Ordinance 542 and granting Interstate Power and Light Company an exclusive 25-year franchise to supply natural gas to West Burlington and require Interstate Power and Light Company to pay a franchise fee to the city.
Support? That's not what I meant. Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Who made the motion?
A motion-
So moved, that's what I should have said. I
was gonna say,
apologize.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. There's a place in here where it says if they do this in any time for 10 years, we have the cost of it. I'm trying to find it. I should have wrote it down. I think it's 4, I think.
Compared to the current code, what we're simply doing is our current ordinance for electric and gas do not have a franchise fee. That requires a new agreement and ordinance for both gas and electric. That includes the franchise fee. It also includes the 90-day provision for instituting a change to the franchise fee. Beyond that, there's not much in the way of changes to the agreement. It's a pretty generic agreement with Alliant.
It is number 4. It says if the city orders a request for the company to relocate, blah, 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 the city will pay for it if it's within, I always thought that if they moved their utilities, that they paid for it no matter what.
That's if we.
If we require them.
So if we do a road, if we let them do that and then 10 years down the road, we want to put a roundabout somewhere in the water or the mains are in, we pay for it? Is that what that reads?
What section are you on, John?
4? I think 4. I should have wrote it down.
Is 4.
Yeah.
But that's not a change from the current.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that. That's what I'm asking. Was that put in there?
Is it the section 4, paragraph 3 that you're referring to,
Yeah,
John? Okay.
right.
City orders.
This is for any reason other than those specified above.
It says the city shall provide to the company without any charge that they would, so in other words, the city will pay for it.
No.
Pay all costs.
The company shall have its costs for section 4. Which section are you looking at?
Section 4.
Which paragraph?
Paragraph 3 is what he's looking at.
But it says for any, if we request them to do that for any reason other than those listed above, which is
Which is our public,
construction, reconstruction,
everything doing right away.
or street, alley, or public improvement.
for a private purpose, for example.
So John, are you asking if this was just put in, or is this the same verbiage they had before?
Both, yeah.
Yep. two options. I can pull up the existing code and tell you now, or we can just simply move forward with it tonight, and I can answer the question at the second reading.
I can pull it up here.
The last line of that says, the city's obligations under this paragraph shall include paying all cost.
Read the first paragraph, though.
Well, but what all does that?
So the first paragraph, which says the company shall at its cost locate and relocate its existing facilities or equipment on, over, under any public street or alley in the city. So we're saying that they are going to pay for any movement of.
And then read
their-
on down.
But it's, when you get to the next paragraph, the city requires the company to relocate facilities in the public right-of-way that have been relocated at company expense at the direction of the city during the previous 10 years. The reasonable cost of such relocation shall be paid by the city. So in other words, if we change our mind within 10 years of something that they've already relocated, we would pay for that.
That's just about everything.
Well, you're not going to rebuild a street in 10
Or if it's
years.
not public use.
I guess.
It essentially covers all the work that we do in the right of way that, they're required to remove it or relocate it.
I guess does that say that they will relocate it and we will pay for it? Is that what that says?
Depends on why.
Or is there situations for situations? I guess I don't quite understand that.
In paragraph 2, John, the way I read it is, if the city requires them to move stuff within 10 years of having put it where they already put it, it is at our expense. The reasonable cost of such relocation will be paid by the city. In other words, if we say put it there on the left side of the road, and then we come back with 9 years later and say we want it now on the right side, it's our cost. That's the way I read that. Which, there's a sense
The
of.
cost of relocation is
Yeah.
rather extensive.
And in your example, like if a roundabout got put in somewhere, if we need them to move stuff, and 10 years ago we said there, and now we say there, it's at our cost.
So is that's just the gas and electric, right? That doesn't have anything to do with like the fiber optics and stuff like that?
The franchise is simply, there's one for gas and one for electric.
Just wanting clarification.
I'm sure they have a similar agreement, though. It wouldn't be this
Which would
agreement.
be scary.
We don't have an
No,
official, we do not have.
most utilities in the right of way, they're required to move it.
Fiber optics.
You'll see in our last discussion, we've got an issue come up with our utilities in the right of way. But I was just trying to go back to the previous one.
Well, we have 2 more readings of this ordinance.
Yeah, we do. Why don't we have Greg come back with that information for us for second reading? This is
Do you
simply
have it,
setting.
Kelly?
I'm okay
Trying
with
to pull
that.
it up, I think.
So the question is, is what we're reading today the exact same as what we had before? Or is this a
Right.
change to it?
That's a concern.
That's the question, okay.
Right. And this is an updated agreement. Just don't forget that previous one was adopted in 2023. So this is the new version of the franchise that they will be working with. But yes, I'll take a look at that and provide the information at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Where are we? We have had a motion, Kelly?
Yeah, motion and second.
Okay. Do I need I don't need a roll call on this, do I?
Yes, you
I
did.
do.
you did.
All right, in that case, roll call, please.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so we go to number 5, which is first reading of an ordinance repealing ordinance 541 and granting Interstate Power and Light Company a non-exclusive 25-year franchise to supply electric energy to West Burlington and require Interstate Power and Light Company to pay a franchise fee to the city. Motion?
Is it same thing just for
Electric.
electric versus gas?
So moved.
Motion.
Support, support, yes.
All right, motion and support. Considering that this is the same as the last one, we'll just ask Greg to have the same information for the second reading.
Exactly.
All right. Roll call, please.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
No.
Motion carries. Number 6, consider resolution setting salary for 2 fire department battalion chiefs.
Motion to approve, $15.
Support.
Motion and support. Any
Slight
discussion?
change in the language to proceed as we discussed in starting those battalion chiefs. Now, rather than next fiscal year, there's no additional cost to the city. Just wanted to clarify the resolution, and that it wasn't simply for calls for the 2 battalion chiefs.
Call for a roll call?
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Motion carries.
Johnson,
Aye.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
Motion carries. Number 7, consider resolution hiring Nick Baker as a reserve police officer.
Motion.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Jesse, can you just tell us a little bit about? Mr.
Nick
Baker?
was a reserve officer here several years ago. He went to Louisa County Sheriff's Department for some time. No issues when he was here. He just would like to come back with a little closer to home. He lives here in Burlington, and just he was a good officer. He's works full time for probation and parole down there in Burlington 8th Judicial. So he's very aware of how things run. So he'll be a good addition back on the department.
Super, thank you.
So where are we in number-wise on the?
For reserves, we are at 5. So we're getting, there's 3 of them right now going through, he would be the 6th. We got 3 of them now going through Indian Hills to get their certification so they can start being in uniform and riding. And then Mr. Baker's already certified, so he'll be able to start helping us right away.
So how many hours can they work? Or what's
They
the?
can work unlimited. It's a minimum of 8 hours a month.
Okay.
But they typically ride a couple of times a month. They help us cover, they do a lot of events, SEC basketball games. They do the fair, 4th of July, football games, dances for the schools. So they help out quite a bit with manpower.
Sounds good.
Okay. No other discussion, I'll ask for a roll call.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Motion carries. Last item of business is a discussion of Phase 2 of the Gear Avenue Trail Project.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have Dax Sunken on the Zoom call with us, our engineer with Snyder and Associates. We provided the information before you tonight, a nice summary of the issues and changes that will be coming forward to date. Some of these items are cost items, will be change orders. Others are just simply based on quantity. The first 2 items in short, and I'll let Dax answer any questions or get into in more detail, and Mike can jump in as well. But the scarification and binder were two cost items that were to be added subsequent to the contract. Those things were merely defined. And as you see in item number 1, below these numbers, you'll see there's a short explanation from Snyder and Associates on each item. Those are two contract items where the numbers are going to be provided subsequent to the contract issuance or approval. Items 3 and 4 are the deducts that we're looking at for the project. The intent is to use the project as designed. However, originally had 3 stages or 3 phases for the company that's coming in, Norris, to do the milling and placement of the asphalt. Moving it to 1 phase and allowing them to do the entire stretch will save us the amounts there in red. The next couple items, chain link fence is an add. We won't be putting the fence back, but they will have to place a post, tighten that up as well. Removal of concrete on bridge. This is a $40,000 item. You'll see down below that based on the specs that we received essentially from DOT, our engineers received, what was found is not what was in the information provided. DAX has been in contact with IDOT and is looking to request funding support because of that on the project. They have additional work to do as it was not to the specs provided to the city's engineer.
So how does the specs get,
Let him finish.
I'm sorry for cutting you off.
Let him finish.
No, go ahead.
Who provides that in specs to him that it wouldn't have gotten right? Sorry about that.
That would be DOT.
I didn't quite
DOT,
catch the question.
the drawings and the maps and the prints that the DOT had,
DOT
said it was this thickness, but it wasn't when it got.
What?
And since the DOT provided the prints, is that why we're going back to the DOT to ask them to pay this difference?
Yes, we're asking them to contribute to the project since it's not what the plans that were or specs that were provided to the city's engineer. What they found was not what was in the plans. Requires additional work on the contractors' side of things to dig out additional concrete. I believe there's more handwork as well related to that. So Dex may have some additional information. I'll just run through these real quick and then I'll open it up to Dex to add anything or Mike and open up for council discussion as well and questions. As you know, the traffic loops has been an issue as well. They have a item on here to replace traffic loops, which is not included in the contract at $17,000. There's for 8, there are 4 traffic loops noted below an additional price. We just met this week with the contractor, subcontractor, the city, our engineer, and there's a number of issues leading to this problem with traffic loops being in the way and their location. And we are proposing that the cost for at least those 4 be borne by $2,500 each from the city, the contractor, engineering firm, and the subcontractor to resolve those first 4 that were damaged early on in the project. And then we have a deletion savings at the end, small item, rather than native grasses or foliar grasses in there. The intent was to put in native plants. We'll just pull that out of the project, do it ourselves, and save some money. But I think the 2 biggest discussion items for tonight, at least in our minds, are the concrete, and I don't know if Dax has any additional information on that additional cost, and then the traffic loops. Mike has an alternate idea as well on the traffic loops, but it does cost additional funds, and that would be switching to cameras. The cost of cameras is around $38,000, but it would prevent any issues with traffic loops in the future. That said, they've given us a pretty good cost to replace the traffic loops in the project, so I think we need to have a discussion on that item. And then I think those are the two major discussion items. And, again, you'll see some change orders coming forward, some quantity changes as well. But Dax, have you found anything additional from DOT yet?
Yeah, so to comment on that one, so that would be 1 and 6 in that email that was sent, the additional concrete removal on the bridge. I was able to speak with the District 5 staff about it. Their initial response was that they don't have a program available to add that to fund it. However, they were going to check with folks in Ames at a different department of the DOT to review if there was something available that they could participate in the cost for that item. So I have not gotten confirmation one way or the other on if the DOT will participate and how much. The cost listed here is the total, so if they don't participate, that $40,000 would be in addition to the contract amount.
And Dax, if we did not go down to the depths noted in the engineering or in the engineering documents or in the specs, what would be the result of doing that?
Yeah, so the result of that would be we would have essentially an 1.5 inch thick section of remaining concrete deck overlay on top of the substructure of the bridge, which I reviewed with our structural designer on the project. They would not recommend leaving that in place and overlaying the new trail on top of it. This would add a second cold joint to the structure, and it would just be susceptible, I guess, to debonding and causing some durability issues with the trail pavement. So it was recommended that we proceed with the full removal of that additional concrete thickness.
Mike, anything you want to add to the discussion? Cameras, loops?
Nope, other than, as Greg said, to move forward, traffic loops on any intersection are an issue every time we have to grind off and do overlay. A traffic loop is epoxied into the cement, cannot be pulled out and reused, so the loop has to be replaced every time we go to them. So that's why we've went to more of the camera systems. Is what I've brought up for the truck stop. It doesn't, it wasn't put in the bid for the project on these. I don't know on all those details where we're at, but there's 4 damaged, and to finish this job, there could be up to 8 more that are gonna have to be cut to pull out a culvert and a box to do this. I'm trying to figure out how not to damage any more to go with these back in, but by the time we damage all these, that money spent could just go towards that camera system and update the intersection and be done with it. Anytime we have another asphalt overlay or anything, we won't have this issue.
Is the 38,000 a quote for replacing all of them or just the 4?
That's the camera system and just
Right.
eliminating what's in the pavement.
Okay, the whole thing, not
Yep.
just the 4.
And I think to replace, if we end up having to replace all loops, it's 30,000 roughly to do all of them at one time is what my quote from our guy is. You're seeing these figures for 8 and 4, but there's other ones there too. There's 2 more added to that, so you're probably at, you're pushing 30 to to replace all that and leave that old system in line.
Roughly $2,400 per loop.
Mike, when you say the traffic loops, is that all the traffic loops on Gear, the one?
No, that's just this intersection. Every intersection has these, except for where we already have camera systems up, or the pod system, which is just a 4.5-inch circle. And those pods can be drilled out if you do an overlay and put another one. But the pod system is not holding up like we were told it was. So our traffic control person is kind of getting to the point where he doesn't want to install or sell those either, because we have issues with them. We have some warranted ones we're still waiting to try and get to the factory. Gear and agency is actually running roughly half on pods and half on the camera system. So because of issues there, that's why we're getting away from loops and pod systems. So
I want to talk about the loops a little bit. Item 6, the removal of the concrete. I understand we had plans originally that had that less than what it is, but it is what it is, and I think we're going to have to do that either way. And just because our plans were wrong, I think we're going to end up eating that one. But 7 and 8, while I agree with what you're saying as the end scenario of the cameras, I do think we need to go back on whoever's responsibility it was that ended up cutting those and make sure we're getting compensated for that. We're hiring professionals and we're paying them a high enough wage that they should have known that was there, whether it be an engineering problem or the workers there at the site. That shouldn't have happened. And however, I do agree with you on moving forward with the cameras, but I feel like some of that should be at their expense.
that's what Greg explained on that cost expense, that they're all willing to pay up for the ones that are damaged. They're gonna pay for what's damaged, even though they don't feel the prints were right, or there should have been in the drawing as a bid item for the project that it wasn't too.
Yeah, but are they willing, if we go to cameras, are they willing to give that same amount of money to that instead of replacing loops? Is that?
That's how I understand it. Am I right on that, Dax or Greg?
My understanding is they were going to contribute $2,500 each to the fix, whether that be those loops or a camera system that we move forward.
That conversation was in that meeting, that if they do that, then all those conduits for those loops in the ground is all exempt and they don't have to work around them. They do have to work around the main lines that I'm going up to vac out tomorrow, because you have a main trunk line with your power that goes to each pole, which feeds the street light and the power for the lights. All these other little conduits that go to each loop are just the, what do I want to call it? The trigger mechanism that when your car pulls on, tells them to go. You still have to have the main conduit with the power. Those have to stay in sight. But I am going to, before any other damage, I'm going to vac them all out for visual, and then they're going to have a surveyor down to take measurements and see if any of them need lowered, and if they do, we will get them lowered so that no one does hit those. And we won't lose our red flashing light. We will temporarily, while we pull wire out of the conduit, to cut the conduit, drop it down and rehook it, and then we'll pull those back. That'll happen in a day. We'll have 4 ways, but we'll keep the red lights flashing. And if we go camera system, I mean, I think he said 2 weeks, max 3 weeks, he can have it here, and that can be installed, and the lights can be functioning again before the project's even done. I can have so that it'll be functioning with green and stopping. We've had to change a lot of things because of backed up traffic at 7 to 8, everybody come to the hospital and that. We've had traffic backed on there. We've done a lot of changing and stuff, and I think Jesse's been watching it too, and we got a good traffic flow going now, because this project's going to be going on for quite a while yet. So,
how many entities was it at $2,500 each?
Jones. The 4, that'd be the city doing 2,500, Jones doing 2,500, Norris doing, DeLong doing 2,500, and Snyder doing 2,500.
So that's 10,000, but what was it going to cost to fix it? Did you say 30?
That's for the 4.
That's for those
if
4 damage. But
cameras,
going forward, there's going to be more damage, up to that 17,000 or even more. So you're getting up at 27,000 just to try and repair the old stuff and put it back. You're pushing that 30,000 for 38. You can go to the camera.
Guys, I have a problem with this because I can see this at the very, very beginning of this project. And we're hiring good engineers and we're hiring people that should catch this. And this is not our fault. This is nothing that we said not to do. It is stuff that was done by whoever that said to do it. If they didn't catch that, then somebody else needs to be on the hook other than the city for this. And the $2,500, I am not happy with at all. It ought to be the cost of it. It was there. It was shown to them. It was, so I guess I'm saying to the company doing it or to the engineering, somebody needs to putty up that, and it's not the city. It's not the city's fault.
So there's a lot of shoulda, woulda, couldas and arguments on I guess, all sides of the table. I think we reviewed those pretty thoroughly. Should there have been a bid or a line item in the bid for this? There is a note on the page to protect loops. Was that sufficient? Should it have been in the plan differently? Should we have marked the loops differently? Should it have been brought up during the pre-bid discussions? Should it have been brought up at the pre-con as an issue? It wasn't in either the pre-con or the pre-bid meeting as well. I think we've got a couple contractors that clearly think they've got a good case as well. My concern is we'll halt the project and a little matter, frankly. I think by everybody participating in the damage, we can move forward with the project. I'm sorry?
Sorry, I thought you were done. So when you say we should have had this done in the meeting, and we should have brought it up, in the meeting, and we should have had it marked better. Who's we?
Well, I guess they're all different items. Should it have been in the line item in the bid that engineering? I don't know about DOT. Should it have been in the plan designated differently? Snyder, should we have caught that? Should it have been marked differently? We go out and mark utilities for each and every project. Historically, we've marked loops from the right of way to the back or to the curb, the back of curb, whichever one.
We mark
the loops have traditionally not been marked. Their argument is that they should have been marked, and that that's how they've seen it done before. Mike can speak to the city, and that it's never been done that way. I've not seen it done that way as well. They have some arguments based on some of the DOC specs that it perhaps should be done that way. There was 2 heavy rains before they went into this. Some of the markings on the south side weren't visible. They did notice it as soon as they got to the north side and stopped at that point in time. Should it have been brought up during the pre-bid? Typically during the pre-bid meeting, when the contractors are reviewing the plans and specs, they come up with questions, and then we send out responses to, or engineers send out responses to everybody, so they all have the same information when they're putting the bid together. The pre-con, the pre-construction meeting is post award of the contract. We kind of kick things off and have a discussion, and the loops were not brought up at that meeting by any of the parties. I don't know, Dax or Mike, have anything to add?
No, they were marked as protect, and manholes for them were on the maps. Like you said, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Nobody, we saw them on the maps, thought everybody was in the understanding of what it was and this, and apparently they weren't, and they didn't understand that, and it's why we're at where we're at.
It scares me what the rest of the if that's that simple, then what's the rest of the project that's going to be, that is going to not be engineered right or caught right? I don't like it.
I can tell you, there's not a project that we've done that this don't happen. There's a couple storm drains that are found. This happened with the south lift with our old lift station that was in the ground that nobody thought anything of, that was in the way. It was a $50,000 cost or $60,000 to remove and do it.
That's different than this.
The issues on the water tower going out, things that should have been caught probably and seen that had to been changed. The creek restoration and the pavers came into a problem and it was poured wrong and it was staked right. I can't think of any project that we've done that you don't run into some kind of an issues.
So, Mike,
I'm not saying there's not going to be any issues during the remainder of the project, but
We're going
once
into
we get
private
to
property next to
the
the mall that wasn't ours.
once we get to the mall,
And I have no idea what's down there. Any issue could arise there.
That's different.
so at this point, if we would push forward on having them do the entire thing, they could come back with a lawsuit saying that they're not responsible for it. Is that what I heard earlier?
one of them did object verbally and brought that up, that they wouldn't do anything in this. So one of the subcontractors.
That is because they're accusing us of not proper marking. We marked them the same way we do for every project. And for these companies to stand there and tell me they don't have any idea that that was a traffic loop or what that is, I don't know how they've been in the business as long as they have. I really don't. But technically, if you go to a court of law with the I-11 call, that I'm pretty sure that they got a leg to stand on, because the actual loop that you can see in the street, we don't put, we go to back the street where they emerge into the concrete is what we do, where they're digging.
I think that's why we ended up where we were. From a discussion perspective, recommendation perspective, it seemed to make sense to share the costs on those initial ones, and each party participate and be able to move the project forward rather than help the project and most likely increase our costs even more. Seems like a reasonable solution. Everybody likes it. We disagree on between the parties, but it seems like a reasonable solution to get us moving forward and not spend additional costs elsewhere.
So the additional cost to the city would be how much?
Depends on what route you
Well,
go.
if we go with the traffic loops, it'd be 38 to 17,000 would go away. That cost would not be there. They'd be able to just push through and do the work. Couple things that Mike needs to do, but that 17,000 cost would not be there. And then each of the parties would provide $2,500 to the city to offset our costs for the signals, bring down to what, 30,500.
I guess I don't want to lose commenting on item 6, which was the concrete bridge work that got missed where the DOT's prints were wrong, and now there's extra work for the contractor. Dax, what do you think the likelihood is of the DOT finding a source for errors on their prints to cover this project, this portion of the project that we're having to pay more for?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can necessarily put a percent likelihood or anything like that to it. I would just say that, in my opinion, the DOT's potential participation in this additional cost is not necessarily to fix a mistake in the plans that were provided, but would more likely be a share in the cost because it's a co-jurisdictional DOT bridge structure. That they have an interest in the maintenance of that bridge that spans US 34.
And without delaying the project, we can continue to move forward. Dax is, moved it up the chain at DOT along with the field engineer, District 5 engineer, has worked with us, as you know, around town, making improvements under the bridges behind the homes, Kimberly, and has been good to work with. We can move it up the chain, DOT. I have taken things all the way up to the director at DOT before, so there's no reason that we can't continue to proceed down that road and ask for additional funding. I think we have a good case on this aspect of it, and I think they should participate in our other funding sources. They do have bridge funds available as well. We do know they're going to come do some maintenance work after this project is complete. And to the bridge itself. And so we do know they're going to be making those repairs subsequently. But given the project moving forward, I think we will continue forward, but move it up the chain, depending on the answer from, I guess, the first level of DOT names.
Well, I definitely think we need to keep pushing it up the chain, because it doesn't seem right that they make the error on their prints and we bear the cost of it. And they get to decide, hey, we don't want you to not do it because that'll put the bridge in the long run.
But my intent would be to take it up the chain.
It's got to
those
stay an open
discussions,
issue.
depending on what happens, what Dax hears next. Hopefully we get a positive response. If not, just request to meet names and take it up the chain.
How's our overall timing looking at the moment?
I think we're on time. The bridge is taking longer, obviously, than expected, but once they hit the remainder of it, I think based on our discussions, Dax, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're still, I think Jones indicated that he was going to be on time at our meeting this week, Monday.
Yeah, there's not been any indication that the project is behind schedule at all on this. They did have some free work before April 1st that they took advantage of. They had some good weather in February and March, so they've been working out there. We started counting the contract working days on Monday. However, we've gotten some inclement weather the last couple of days, so some of those days have not been counted as working days. I think they have gotten some progress made in those days, so that just helps to keep them on schedule or ahead of schedule. Obviously, this additional removal that they have to do on the bridge is going to add a little bit of time to that piece of work, but they are able to do other work while they have the bridge contractor working on that piece.
That's one subcontractor that I don't believe is working on the next phase, if I'm correct. But Jones mentioned Monday that he was on time, is my recollection. So.
What is the projected completion date, please?
I think this one was set up to be completed in September.
Thank you. And I've only heard favorable comments on people seeing the project getting done. They want to see it go. So the upside is, hey, we're looking forward to it. Everybody I've talked to is like, they want to see it. They understand the traffic inconvenience. That's life. But they also expect us to be good stewards of our finances and get it done on time, on budget.
Of course. Yeah. And we were able to find some savings, as noted there, in the document, 16 for 28,000 and change, a little bit more for the city as well. So we have found some slight ways to offset some of these costs, but nothing major that's going to bring the cost down.
So the bridge, I can see that. Okay, the DOT had old prints. The DOT has, they've gave us a lot of funding for that bridge, and that one doesn't bother me as much. But it's it's the loops that should have been taken care of that doesn't, and I'm not for sure still what 1 and 2 is on here.
Yeah, I can add some explanation, I guess, for 1 and 2. The pavement scarification is the milling through the parking lot that's required to overlay the asphalt for the new trail. And then the binder is part of the asphalt mix that is not included in the asphalt item in the DOT specification. So those 2 items are needed to do the work through the parking lot section.
And why would that not been added? And whose responsibility was that to make sure it was added?
So that was a question that came up from the bidders during the bidding process. It would have been added to the bid documents at that time. However, the timing of the question was too close to the bid opening date, so the DOT would not allow us to issue addendum at that time. So it needed to be addressed as a change post-bid.
I wished I would have known that when we were given the price of the job, that we were gonna have to add that right away, knowing that.
That should have been something we would have told. If you
I
knew.
believe it was on the documents when you had approval, we can pull those up, if you like, but I'm pretty sure it was on there.
I mean, was there any other thing? That's $35,000.
We looked at multiple options to try to save money, all of them ended up costing more on that trail section. Really haven't been able to find something we talked about. We weren't able to get a concrete bid for the project. We talked about that being probably about $11,000 add. But we looked at 4 different options, I believe, at least, to try to bring those costs down. And the only one that was able to bring anything to the table was Norris, and the deduct shown there based on staging. Rather than having them come back and work 3 different times on the removal and the placement of the asphalt, we can save that amount of money by doing it in one stage.
Mike, if we decide to go to the cameras, what would, what would the cost of the cameras cost? What would that be?
That's the 38. The 38,
38?
yeah, 38 some odd dollars.
38 for the cameras and
Or
30 for if we're
if-
replacing the other?
At the rate we're going, the other loops that are gonna have to come out to do this that are not damaged yet, that you're talking almost 30 just to replace the old loops and stay with the whole old system. So to go ahead and keep the project moving and not worry about all those loops and conduits and replacement, you're at about 8,000 more just to put a camera system up, and then any other project in that intersection coming up will never have to issue of a loop again.
So a total of all of them. I'm hearing part of it and then part of it and then part of it.
Right now, what you're seeing is what is damaged and what potentially will be damaged by the time we're,
Add that all up to me for the cameras.
$38,000 minus $7,500, $30,500 would be our cost for the camera system.
For all.
For the camera system,
the camera
rather than
system is
replacing the loops.
38. And
38 minus the contributions from the other parties of $7,500 comes to
Right.
$30,500.
so right now, it's 30,000 for the camera.
$5,000 you can move to a new system that we'd have to put in eventually anyway.
We don't.
Like you said, right now, you're at 30,000 for the camera because of the offset, what they're gonna pay for the 4 that are damaged. But if you don't wanna go with the camera and you end up having to do the rest of these loops, you're gonna spend $30,000 and still have the old system
Yeah.
and all the loops in the street.
Well, I'd say just move over to the camera and keep it moving. But that's me.
No, that makes sense. Why would we go backwards?
I'll just, I guess, add and clarify, the item on tonight's agenda is just discussion. So we don't need any, council action on this. What we need is a general consensus on proceeding so that we can provide direction to the contractor. There will be a formal change order submitted, and that goes through a process with the DOT on this project since it is federal aid. And then that will be brought back to the city council to give approval. So if there is, if there's further discussion needed, whether that's with us or if that's with Greg and Public Works, those conversations can continue, beyond tonight if necessary.
I have one
Like the
more question.
$40,000. Sorry.
Mike, the other 8 loops that you haven't done anything with yet, what do you think the odds are we can just keep those and use them?
That is going to depend on the surveying after I'm done locating the trunk lines. If they can not tear out part of the curb where those loops go through, for half of them, and there's another portion is right beside the concrete structure that's in the plans to replace the storm drain, and it's very highly, that's going to have to be solved to get the storm drain out. So
You think a
out of
couple for
those
sure.
8, I can say at least 3 more of them I know that are going to be added to that.
Okay.
And the other 5 on the ramp if we can't stay away from the trail on that. That's to be determined as soon as I get these vac and they get the surveyor gives me a point to measure off of for center of trail so I know how far the work's going out.
I think I'm gonna start selling cars with no tires and rims and put the tires and rims beside the car and tell them, here's the car, and then when you buy it, then I'll sell you these rims and tires. Because it seems like to me, this stuff should have been included. Somebody besides the city made the mistake. And I don't like that.
That's the argument we made, and we can continue to make, but that's not our recommendation to move forward. Lesson learned. I think we need to move forward. I'm concerned about the costs if we don't move forward.
There's already been a policy change on my part in my department because of this, and he said, she said, my 2 locators have already been informed from here forward. Every locate that's done is to be photographed, hung on to, so that I have that proof. My guy has already went back to aisle 1 call. I've pulled tickets back from when we did locates, so they're aware of it, tracing our tracks. But every locator that comes and locates for us, they always take photos. So that is a policy change now, that any locate we do on any job or any personal yard or project will be photoed and stored until the project's done for our own safety.
I think
Well,
that
thank you for that.
the 7,500 seems right. I don't know if we'll get a dime out of the DOT or not, but I appreciate you pursuing it. It sounds like we were gonna have an issue with the loops either way, whether they cut those or not. It's just we definitely have an issue now.
I will say, after they cut those and moved and they saw the other paint marks, they did stop their procedure before they went ahead and cut everything else.
Yeah, good. So, I'm okay moving forward, but I'd sure like to continue to try to get something out of DOT and then for sure get that 7,500.
Everybody agreed Monday to participate, and we'll move it up the chain if we don't get the answer we like first time around.
Are you looking at the camera system then as a replacement or not?
Yes.
My only question would be, do we have to make that decision before you determine whether you think we'll break 5 more? Or can we wait and see what happens with those 5?
Yeah, it depends on Dax and when they get their guy and our measurement to see where we're at, but I'm hoping by Friday I should have more information on that, and I suppose we can email that out to you. But we need to make some kind of a decision so they can keep moving, because as soon as we stop progress, then they're going to charge us working days, and they'll extend the project because they can't work because we're holding them up on our end. So that's why I want to get these found and get these measurements and see exactly how many more are going to be.
Well, if we got to end up replacing 10 out of the 12 anyway, then it makes sense to go to the cameras. If for some reason you come back and say, well, only the 4 that were cut and I saved the other 8, then to me, it doesn't make sense to make the switch, but
No, that's what I was basically going to say too, that I doubt we're going to save 8 of them. Even if we saved 4 of them, I mean, the combined cost is between $17,000 and $18,000. I mean, that plus your contribution, to me, makes more sense to put in a better system.
And that's what we want to get you guys information, exactly how many more are going to be damaged and what that cost will be. And then you can see that how much difference from all the replacement of the old system to get it working versus the camera.
So if we approve this tonight, this would not be with the cameras yet, that could wait? Or do we approve it with the cameras?
Well, we're trying to get a sense for what you want rather than approval.
Yeah, they just need a census tonight, I think, if I'm right, Greg, is can we keep moving forward with the trail and come up with the final answer on loops?
First thing that needs to be done is get the information from on the 4 loops out of the 8 at least. I don't think you're going to save 8 of them. I think you're probably going to end up with some issues there. But they have their surveyor come out to do some work as well. Is he going to be the one marking those decks? Or is that Mike and Sean and?
No, we'll have a surveyor out there. We have one scheduled for Friday morning.
So that work will get done first. Mike will be out there with them. They'll be taking a look at that.
We'll be up there most of the day tomorrow exposing everything so the surveyor can mark and stake, and then Sean can do his measurements, and by the end of the day Friday, I should know exactly how many or where we're at.
So we just need to make a motion to go forward then.
no motion
But-
tonight.
But still at the same time, what John's saying, we need to,
Before we go any further, I want to know who's paying for what. Then we can decide whether we're going to spend the extra money for the cameras and stuff. Somebody else needs to huddle up to this. And if they're not, then, you know, I guess,
What's
We're
your
gonna leave the
option?
project unfinished, John?
no, but I want to know who the people at fault are, so that the next project, we have a better understanding of who's making the bad decisions,
Okay.
okay?
Whether it's the contractor, whether
That's kind of what our meeting was about, that Greg, that's why we all sat down. It could have been better in the design. The contractor should have brought up that he didn't understand no more than it was in there. They're saying that the markings I did were incorrect. That's why we sat here in a group and come to this conclusion. It's a little bit, everybody could have done a better job on this to stop this from happening.
but you're in the middle of a project, you just can't just let it hang.
And
right
they
now.
know that when they do this, okay? And, and then who gets stuck? It's us.
We're stuck right now anyhow.
That's right. And
Because if you stop the project for this, we will pay per day for stop workage, so.
Yeah, you're going to start getting charged days that they're sitting there and they can't work. We're holding them up.
So you're sort of tied, you gotta go forward with it right now, regardless, and then still do like you're saying, John, you know,
once you go forward, you have no room to negotiate it.
yeah, but
You
you,
just gave
We
them,
go-
okay.
We go down a different path, we lose the $7,500 off the top, and then we end up,
In court.
potentially in court, mediation, arbitration, whatever you want to call it, and delaying the project.
I'm guessing those
And those
fees are going
costs
to be a lot
associated
more
with
than
it.
a $30,000 camera.
I guess I'll just add to that discussion. If these had been marked during design and identified pre-bid, these would have been added to the contract. So the contract amount essentially would have been $2,200 times 12 loops more than what was bid.
This is a trail anyway.
So in this situation, the city is actually getting essentially 3 of the 4 damaged loops repaired at no cost or replaced at no cost. And if the city decides that they would like to proceed with that and replace the loops, then we would essentially be paying, the city would be contracting to pay for replacing the other 9. But the city also has the option to forego replacing the loops and instead spend that money on a different system. I think are kind of the 2 options that we're trying to figure out what we prefer.
With you saying that, then that even brings up more of my questioning. You said if that would have been put in there, why was it not put in? Why didn't you, engineering, catch it? Did you walk the line? Did you see what's there? Did you question anything that might not be? And did you just miss it or what?
In design, most people don't locate anything.
I
No, I'm just saying, in design, when they call for a design, nobody goes and locates stuff for them. What they had for locates is what I have visible is my manholes and what they seen in the street, and they put it in the plans to protect the loops in the concrete and had the manholes on the structures on the thing. And then we painted before they started.
Yeah, so you just expand, I guess, on what Mike said there. As a designer, we follow the same utility locate process that the contractors out there digging follow. We go through the Iowa one call system to get locates for design. In this case, the utility is a traffic signal detection loop. And Mike is right. A lot of times, if it's for a design, the locates aren't as detailed as when they're actually out there digging. So,
Fought the same.
unfortunately, we have to base our design on the information that we have through that process. Like Mike said, we did include a note in the plans to try to protect what we could. Unfortunately, the contractor sees the contract documents differently than what we see and what the city sees, and so that's why we had those meetings last week, earlier this week, and last week to figure out how best to proceed. Everybody laid out their perspective on it, and this was the most agreeable solution, I guess, that we could all come up with.
We fought this on the tower project too. There was a main CenturyLink line right down along the shop where they went that we found, and you still couldn't get them here. After 50, 60 locate renewals, and they still never located it, and they never came back to locate it.
Keep us on track. Let's just simply say what you would like us to do so we move forward with at least this meeting. And it's not to say we can't come back to the issue later on, all right?
You bet.
I'll start with.
Yeah, I want the project to proceed, and we just keep diligent on trying to stay on top of the issues we brought up tonight, and specifically chase down the DOT and get additional funding to cover the street cost, and get more information on the street traffic loops versus camera option going forward. But let's move forward with the project, and we just got to work through these issues on a, $1.4 million project. We're going to have issues. That's.
Therese?
Well, always expect the unexpected with any project. But we need to keep moving forward if we would like a September date for opening, and if we want to modernize and use that $7,500 towards cameras, it seems more like of a logical solution than keep putting loops.
John?
I guess I want a detailed explanation on who's really at fault, and if we have to pay for this out of our pocket, that will be viewed in the next jobs that we put out by me.
Okay. Andy?
I think we need to move forward. I think the 7,500 for that issue is very fair. The rest of them should have been in the bid anyway, so we'd have that cost. If the majority of those are damaged as we pull them out, then I would go with the cameras. If Mike's great ability somehow saves all 8 of those or something, then hopefully we can just reuse them and go forward. But yeah, I would proceed.
Okay.
I agree to go forward. It's basically saving us money too. If we halt the project, obviously we're gonna be paying more money. I agree with John, though. We need to prevent this from happening again, set a, criteria for us to help us out in the future. And modernization, the camera system, obviously, too. So,
I think that probably gives you a sense where the council is, so.
Thank you.
Certainly. Greg, we should be done with this meeting, but we're going into a closed session, is that correct?
Citizens
No,
inquiry.
just citizen inquiry.
Oh, citizens inquiry, I'm sorry. Can't get my computer to move down to my next screen. Oh, well. That's why you have paper copies, I guess. Do I have any citizens inquiries here? About items that would be coming up for future council meetings?
Sure.
Do we have those? No.
No, adjourn.
Let's see that. All right, in that case, then I'll entertain a motion for
Well, so moved.
adjournment.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are